So I bought the new Tom Ford Ombre Leather, and I'm really excited because the OG Tom Ford Ombre Leather, this thing right here, is one of my fragrances for life. I'm gonna open this up and give you my first impressions of what it smells like, and also my initial thoughts on usage, performance, and more. Before I begin, a like on this video is highly appreciated. Thank you, and make sure you subscribe. Some of the notes in Tom Ford's Eau d'Ombre Leather are coriander, cardamom, ginger, vanilla, saffron, leathery notes, tonka bean, amber, cedarwood, cypriol, patchouli, and sandalwood. So the OG Ombre Leather to me is definitely one of the very best leather focused scents ever made, and the parfum sort of retains a bit of the original. And I don't think this one sort of strays too far away from the OG. However, I do think that the OG have a bit more sort of a bite to its leather. And I'm not sure what to expect from the new one, but what I'm hoping for is that it at least sort of retains the core of the OG, because the OG is very much the sort of a core scent that I fell in love with. So for me, it's all about the juice inside the bottle. However, I kind of like the way they went with a sort of a clear bottle here. So this is going to be exciting for sure. Okay, my very first impression of the very first 2 or 3 sprays of this, straight away it feels like this goes in a less spicy direction than the OG. So at least based on this first impression, this has a slightly softer kind of spiciness. Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, this is definitely spicy straight away. But its spiciness is more of the sort of a soft kind if I compare it to the OG. And pretty much straight away I'm getting the vanilla mixed with a bit of leather. So based on this, I could be wrong, and like always, scents have a tendency to develop with a bit of usage. So this might smell a bit different in like a week or a month. But based on this first impression, this pretty much straight away goes into a mix of a prominent but soft kind of spiciness together with that vanilla and quite a smooth kind of leather. Yeah, definitely. It really feels like the vanilla is taking a lead here. So like a slightly creamy, slightly warm vanilla with a soft kind of spiciness over it. Together with, at least if I compare it to the OG, a softer kind of leather. It doesn't have the same sort of bite as the OG. This is like the more gentle or softer or smoother version of the OG. That vanilla really gives this maybe not a completely different feel, but yeah, in a way gives this a different feel and vibe compared to the original. So whereas the original pretty much straight away hits you in the nose with that fantastic kind of not sharp but prominent dose of spiciness and that leather, this instead leads with the vanilla and a much softer dose of leather and spiciness. So before I wait for the dry run, I do want to say this about the opening through to the mids. I think most who smell this and enjoy the scent of leather will most likely fall into 2 camps. Those who enjoy the addition of the vanilla, and those are the same who most likely will think this is a much easier to wear kind of leather focused fragrance, which it basically is. The vanilla really makes this an easier to wear kind of leather focused scent. The second camp will be those who feel that the sort of a focus on the vanilla in here is something that is pushing this too far away from the OG. I do feel initially that I actually like this direction. But with that said, this definitely does not have the same bite with the leather as the OG has. But I don't think I feel that is a bad thing. So I'm gonna give this some time to dry down. Based on this first impression, I'm not saying this is like a linear scent, but it really feels like what I got in the opening through to the mids is pretty much still in the dry down, but more sort of amplified. So I do feel that this is still primarily a vanilla focus scent. That vanilla in the dry down has become a bit sort of a sweeter and warmer. there's still definitely a prominent dose of leather to it, but I do feel that the leather is still more of the soft kind. And I still feel that the leather compared to the leather in the OG has less sort of a bite to it. Two things have changed though as this dried down. Number one, this has a soft kind of ambery shine and warmth to it in the dry down. Number two, it has this quite creamy feel to it in the dry down, which I think is really nice. So scent wise, based on this first impression, this is basically a vanilla focus scent with a soft kind of leather to it. This has a very prominent dose of spiciness to it in the opening. However, I do feel that its spiciness is of the soft kind, and when it dries down, this basically becomes this sort of a warm vanillic and leathery scent, soft leathery scent with a bit of sort of an ambery shine and warmth to it, and everything is a bit sort of creamy. So what about the vibe of this thing right here? This is definitely a sexy scent. This is definitely a sexy and playful scent with a dose of sort of elegance to it. However, if I compare this with the OG, it doesn't quite go full all in on that bad boy sexy vibe. So when it comes to performance, I really don't know, and I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. However, based on how it sort of lingers in the air around me and how it sort of oozes from my skin, I don't feel this is as strong as the OG, and I also do not feel this is as strong as the Parfum. So this feels like somewhere slightly above average or somewhere between average and strong. Again, this is based on my first impression of it, and this might change with a bit of maceration. But this, currently, based on this first impression, is nowhere near something beast mode. So here are my initial thoughts on usage. So like seasons, occasions, and stuff like that. This is definitely leaning more towards fall, winter, and spring. But since I'm a leather freak, I will definitely use this throughout the year. But yeah, this leans more towards fall, winter, and spring. As for occasions, since this has that prominent dose of vanilla, and since the leather is a lot softer compared to the OG, I do feel that this is a sort of a more versatile leather scent. And I actually do feel that this can be used both to sort of a formal and casual occasions. But with that said, this definitely like a perfect date night or going out kind of scent. And I mean, come on, this, much like these two, absolutely perfect with a leather jacket. Who's Tom Ford Oud Ombre Leather for? I think let's switch that around. Who is it not for? Number one, if you do not enjoy the scent of vanilla, then yeah, this is definitely not for you. Number two, if you were expecting something that is really close to the OG or to the Parfum, then again, I don't think this is something for you. This is really for someone who absolutely loves the scent of leather and vanilla and wants what at least I think is a slightly more sort of a versatile kind of leather focus scent. If you enjoy both leather and vanilla, and if you don't mind this to have sort of a less bite than the OG and the Parfum, then you will most likely really enjoy this. So let's talk about price. I paid about $100 for 50 ml, so this is definitely not a cheap fragrance. So what are my final thoughts based on my first impression of Tom Ford Oud Ombre Leather? I definitely like this. This gives me Tom Ford Ombre Leather vibes, but made a lot more sort of a versatile and definitely a lot more mass appealing. I do enjoy the combo of vanilla and leather, and I actually wish I had more fragrances with that combo. I have Memo Italian leather. I probably have something else with the combo of vanilla and leather. So I definitely enjoy that. This is still Ombre Leather. I definitely enjoy this fragrance, but I'm lacking that sort of a bite that the OG has. But I'm thinking maybe it's actually impossible to retain the bite and slightly sort of aggressive leather of the OG and at the same time have this slightly warm, creamy and slightly sweet vanilla. Based on this first impression, I definitely like it. Do I like it as much as the OG? No. And like I said before, I feel that most who enjoy the scent of leather and who puts their noses to this will fall into two camps. One who feel that too much of the OG has been removed of this and that this is too mainstream or too watered down or whatever. And the other one being those who feel that this actually now is like a more wearable and more mass appealing kind of leather slash vanilla focus scent. Now, I would absolutely love to know how you feel about this one. Do you fall in either of those two camps? How do you feel about this? Please let me know in the comments below.